talk a little bit about when things fall apart, that things don't always last forever, and some relationships aren't meant to last. I think one of the things that I've learned in my short time on this planet is that no one really teaches us how to date. No one prepares us for things to end. And everything comes to an end, right? All good things come to an end in some form or fashion. We don't prepare for transitions. And I think that one of the things that I've seen is people will stick together because that's what you're supposed to do. But it might not be the best situation. I am grateful that my parents never married because I just know that that would not have been a productive and healthy environment. So maybe you two can talk a little bit about when things fall apart, and then also the system that tries to glue them not so much back together, but the court system that I think sometimes causes challenges when people have taken a break or broken up permanently.
In my situation, my girlfriend at the time, my son's mom, we broke up shortly after my son was born. Mm-hmm. So in that situation, we weren't together for a long time before she was pregnant, and then we broke up shortly after my son was born. So it was not a very long period of time. Mm-hmm. And in terms of, to your point about the court system, fortunately, we never actually had to go to court. However, it was very difficult for the first couple of years after we split up.
And how old is your son now?
He's now 5.
He's 5.
And we've had this agreement since he was almost 3. He was about 2.5, almost 3. But prior to that time, it was very challenging, and court may have been an option. We actually went to private mediation at one point, but we couldn't agree to the terms, so that didn't work out. And I think my concern was going to court was the aspect of being treated unfairly, sort of what Robert was talking about earlier. And because there still is this bias, I believe, even though things are getting better, especially in some states things are getting better, but overall there's still this bias, as we were discussing earlier, that men are more or less supposed to be the paycheck or fund the situation, and the child would be better off with the mother. So I didn't want to have to deal with that, so I tried other means, discussing things with my son's mom, negotiating, also just being patient and waiting things out. And fortunately, like I said, when he was about 2.5 or so, we came to this agreement. But I do feel that the court system is problematic, especially when it comes to families and divorce. And we were never married, so that part was taken out of the equation. But in terms of family law, I think it's a big problem. And I think the reason there's been no change, or the change has been sort of slow, is because a lot of lawyers and a lot of the court system relies on a lot of money that they make from these parents and from these couples that split up.
Robert, maybe you can speak to basically your experiences, but more so, what are some ways that you think the court system can evolve based on what you just talked about? So you have your experiences, but maybe looking at that, lessons learned, how can the court system maybe evolve to be more balanced and also cognizant of fathers' roles?
Oh God, Ramona, that's a tough question. My gut reaction is to say it needs to do more to be fair, to be just. But how you operationalize that?
Do that right.
I'm not sure. For me, it seems like there should be some pretty simple answers to doing the right thing. But I'm sure I'm not the first to vent in this way. Certainly won't be the last. So clearly, it's not that easy to do the fair, the just thing. I don't know if I have an answer for that, to be quite honest. I've seen and heard of some decisions that would blow your mind, that would absolutely blow your mind, and why they happen over and over, I just don't know. I do have a friend who's a lawyer, and I spoke to him about it one time, and he said that, in the family law system, there is the presumption that the father is a deadbeat, and he has to somehow prove that he is worthwhile and invested in his child's life in a substantive way. That burden of proof, so to speak, should not exist for neither parent.
Right.
But I'm sure there have been several deadbeat fathers out there that have, kind of fed that philosophy, so to speak.
Yeah,
So,
well, I mean, my dad.
I mean, my father too.
So,
my
yeah.
father too. So yeah, we're in the same boat there. So yeah, a few of us talked about how ridiculous it is that someone either gets behind or doesn't pay what the court mandates in child support, and you can put someone in jail because of that. I mean, now there have to be other solutions. You hope that there are other solutions, but it seems like putting someone, whether it's the mother or the father, in jail just sabotages the family dynamic that much more. How is that, a viable solution or a healthy solution? But that's what we do. Or, there are other penalties. Maybe your driver's license is withheld, or you can't leave the country to work, or whatever happens, and that cripples you to make income, which ultimately should go to the child. It's backwards. It's completely flawed, and it's because I'm in this situation. I know many hundreds of men in this situation. It baffles me sometimes that this isn't more of a priority in our country. When we talk about, I think Charles talked a little bit about guilt, bringing a child into this crazy world we live in. Well, my philosophy is, we're as healthy as our communities are as healthy as our families. So when you talk about so many families being fractured, it seems that we would do much more as a society to make sure we have stronger families. And I think we could start in, family court.
Yeah. What's one word of advice you would maybe give to women out there who might be going through similar situations that you two have gone through, whether married, not married? How do you think women can be supportive in this process, if you just had one word of advice in regards to a lesson learned?
Respect the father as an equal, as a parenting equal, as a co-parent. Respect and honor that in the same way that hopefully the father does for the mother. This power struggle of, I'm better, I know best, for our child or my child. I hear women say that often. That baffles me. My child. So I think, just honoring the fact that you have an equal partner, someone who wants to be just as involved, engaged in your child's life as you are.
I agree with respect, and also just remove any type of selfish or any type of anger that a woman might have in that regard. Yeah, that has to be taken out of the equation, and the child has to come first. And I think in a lot of instances, the women are putting their feelings and emotions and that negative aspect into that type of battle versus thinking about what's best for the child.
And I mean, you can't blame them now, right? I mean, sometimes women feel like they've been abandoned or they've been disrespected or what have you, but it is hard probably for them to separate that, just like I'm sure if the tables were turned, for men. But I think your point is right, that the child is the most important person in all of this. And it goes back to what you talked about, loving yourself unconditionally would hopefully be able to empower the parents to love the child unconditionally and to really put those feelings aside. So thank you both for being so candid. I think there aren't enough conversations out there to celebrate the good fathers. I think there's a lot of opportunities for men to be engaged and involved, but courts or unfortunately mothers are blocking men like yourselves from wanting to be engaged and actively a part of your children's lives.